Far from being embarrassed by the propaganda that was put forward by RT, Margarita Simony says that she's proud of the work that the RT channel has done, and that her subsequent efforts to pass on Russian propaganda in the American market have been. So we're going to watch this. It's just a couple of minutes. This is in the Russian Media Monitor. Special thanks to them. They do great work. And here is Margarita Simony talking about just that. In America, we had an American channel. It was designed for Americans. It was watched by Americans. When they closed down our TV channel, we created a large network on the internet, right? So they did that. It was driven underground, and it was well intentioned to say, nope, we're not going to have RT on YouTube, and we're not going to have it on this cable network and that satellite TV network. But that caused a mutation, which is worse than the original propaganda being pushed forward. An enormous media organization, so to speak. There, bloggers with unbelievable audiences were saying something different from what is said on CNN. Let's put it this way. We were working with their audiences. Why did they pop us just now? They've imposed additional comprehensive sanctions. They said, why? Because of you, in particular. Some in the West have an incorrect opinion about Ukraine. Well, okay, so from a Russian perspective, that is what they're seeing, but they're trying to influence through social media influencers, and they're apparently doing an effective job with that. Yes, the U.S. State Department openly said that because of the work of Russia Today, the situation in Ukraine, the war in Ukraine, does not receive the kind of international support they were counting on. I think that's demonstrably true. You can see the statistics of support for Ukraine early on in the war, and then how it eroded over time. And particularly on the Republican side of the aisle, it eroded far faster than it did on the Democrat side. They were counting on it. I don't think that there can be a better recognition of achievements by the employees of Russia Today. I told all the guys that their lives were well spent. If the State Department believes that it was us who influenced the absence of financing, deliveries of weapons, and other things to Ukraine, listen, like when people are saying, yeah, we shouldn't be spending that money, whether you know it or not, you're spouting Russian propaganda points. So there is some effect there from a large, significant number of countries, as well as a large number of audiences. We know that it's true, but when the State Department recognizes it, well done. They've closed us down in America because we are an electorally significant media. We are broadcasting to America. In America, we had an electorally significant influence on the opinion of the people. Now, that's kind of a scary thought that could be taking place. But how do you contend with that? That's the real trick. On the one hand, you can shut down all free speech, but as Madison wrote in the Federalist Papers, the cure is worse than the disease. Or do what? How do you shut her down, especially when it's traveling through social media influencers? This is something that couldn't have happened pre-2014 when social media was barely existing. People would watch us and say, I didn't know this. They were losing it because they would close the door to us and we would get in through the window. That's exactly what's happened. We closed the door to RT, and then they came in through a back window, and they're there in social media influencers, and we can't really tell who exactly is doing what. It's really a bizarrely bad situation. They nail the window shut, we get in through the vent. They seal off the vents, we crawl in through the pipe. Now we'll pop up from under the flooring because no one canceled the task that has been set before us. We'll keep working, even though they're being very harsh. There were searches of our colleagues to the third degree. We had to evacuate someone. Ultimately, if anyone in the U.S. is working with us, they immediately qualify to spend 20 years in prison. Now, I'm not sure about that 20 years in prison, whatever, but what she's talking about, the door closed, they go through a window, go through a vent, go under the floor, whatever it is, that's exactly what has transpired. And that's how dangerous this Russian propaganda is. And they just keep coming, and they're trying to influence not only the election, but influence other outcomes, even if it's just that we're at odds with each other. Okay, tell me what you think about this. Thank you for the time, the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.